Hi, this is Bekkr. It is finally released and available. It is a free macOS app. It does require Apple Silicon, so unfortunately, no Intel support. No Windows or Linux support either right now. But you can find it at shasharoboto.com. I was going to record a set of little tutorials here to get you started with it. This is the very first one, so I'm just going to go through the very basics. First part is this is fully keyboard controlled, so everything is controlled. Primarily, you use the arrow keys to move around. You can think of it a little bit like a grid, kind of like a spreadsheet. You just naturally move around here. There are good reasons, at least I tell myself there are good reasons for why all of this is keyboard controlled, and part of it is some future intentions I have for how to use this in a live setting as a performance instrument rather than something to pre-record with. Let's take it from the beginning. Up here, this is kind of like your control settings. Very much to the right here. Keys on and off is just whether or not you get the little subtitles. You can see it says every time I press a key, you get to see what it is down there. It's really only useful if you're recording videos to share with someone else about what you're doing. This lets you select an external clock instead of internal. If you want a mic on for narration, again, only really makes sense if you're doing videos like this. You activate that here. This is where you choose whether you want camera on, and if so, where. And I can use this to show you how you generally change things. So we use the arrow keys to select a field, press enter. You can see the little frame goes from green to blue, and now you can use up and down keys to change the value. In this case, I was changing the location of the camera. There's several different recording modes. For video, there are two. There's this one you see right now, which is 16:9. Goes well for like a YouTube video, but there are also vertical videos that work well for Instagram Reels, TikToks, or similar social media sharing. This is stop-start of the recording. This is play-pause of the actual music being generated. It's a timer that starts running once we are playing music. This is the BPM of what we're generating. Maybe we can start out here by making this a little slower just for our demo here. Maybe 92 feels good. Finally here, the Bekkr logo. If you press enter on this, you get a little dialog up where you can control your patches. A patch is essentially the whole configuration of the app. You can, in here, you can create new ones, delete, rename, etc. Press enter to load one. Down here we have a chain. A chain is the core part of what you do in Bekkr. You create chains that generate music. So let's just to make this sample actually functional, put in a clock divider. Every chain has a flow of MIDI notes and of audio. Clock divider follows the clock. We set it to 92 BPM up there. You set a division, and then it starts sending out notes with that. A default, I think it sends out like a, I don't know, C of third octave or something like that. I'll get to in a second of how we can change that. But let's put in an oscillator here, and then we'll put in something called a low pass gate. And don't worry about these things. We will get to those in a future tutorial. If you've done anything with modular synthesis, a lot of these things are probably very easy to comprehend for you. They fit everything. I'm trying to keep the namings to things you would already know. If you've not done anything modular, some of this might feel a little off or weird, but it's really easy once you get into it. So now we can press play to start listening to this. I can do that either by taking my cursor up here and pressing enter, or I can press spacebar anywhere else, just as a shorthand. Makes it really easy if you're working on things to change it. As a sample, I can show how we change a parameter here, which is the same as everything else. Press enter to select, so you get the little blue frame around, but now we have multiple parameters, so I use arrow keys left and right to move between them. Once I found the right one, I again use arrow keys up and down to change it. In this case, I'm changing the decay rate of this low pass gate. Go to the oscillator here, maybe change it to a triangle. Saw, square. Go to the clock divider, can change the speed here. You can create as many changes as you want. In reality, I think I have an upper limit of 16 or so, but likely you're going to run out of CPU power before you run out of change you want to make. But if someone has a very powerful machine and need more change, it'll be easy enough for me to add. This is the modulation lane. I'll get to that in another video. This is the harmony lane. I'll give you a quick intro to that right now. I mentioned to you that the initial notes being sent are all just a C. So there are different ways that you can choose what notes are actually being sent out. And my thought with this whole environment is that I want it to be something for you to create generative music in. So I don't want you to necessarily use a piano roll like a regular sequencer and like controlling every single thing. The harmony lane is the root of everything else that you're going to generate. So let's put something in here. Key, let's put a D in maybe. We'll choose a mode, let's do minor, and then let's drop in some chords. And you will see the chords here are the chord number within that scale, right? And you can see under each, so we have them numbered here, 1, 2, 4 in this case. Underneath them, you see what does that actually mean. So in this case, the first chord is a D minor, D, F, A. Next, E diminished, E, G, A sharp, etc. If we go out here and we change our key here, you'll see that those chords are changing with it automatically, right? So it is really a reference to that. And we'll go much more in depth with the harmony lane later. There are lots of interesting things you can do, like looping sections, probability moves. You can change key or mode. You can put in chords that are slightly different from you expected. But then the next question is, how do we actually use these? Well, a quick sample of that is to throw in an arpeggiator. So what the arpeggiator does is it is aware of the key, mode, and chord numbers, and it will actually take the incoming notes, in this case our clock divider is sending us Cs, and it'll adjust them to match an arpeggio within the current chord. So let's try playing again here. So you can both hear and see that for each bar, the harmony lane moves between these chords. Let's try to make this one go across 2 octaves. Maybe we can choose a different voicing here. Suspended 4. Or we could also choose a different pattern. So now, with very few little things here, we have something that is a lot more interesting. It's also something that I at least find in modular synthesis can be really hard to set up. You can kind of do it if you have some good modulatable quantizers. It's easy to do something like what we have here with like a simple chord transition, but this allows us to do very complex things we'll get to later. The last little thing I want to mention in this very first tutorial is that down here is the mastering bus. All the individual chains are in mono. You can put in a little panning device here, which chooses how this chain gets mixed in to the main bus, but it doesn't do anything else within the chain itself. It's just a sign for when each chain gets mixed in to the mastering bus, the main bus, where should it sit in the stereo mix. The main bus is in stereo all the way, so it gets all the change in, summed in, and then you have a set of separate components down here that you can pass it all through. These are all in stereo. We're going to go through this in much more detail later on, but for now, all you need to know is this is where your audio flows through. All right, I think that's a really good start. I'm going to leave you with that, and then we'll start doing some other tutorials on each of the things that we just touched on. Thanks for watching.